So now our next speaker, our next speaker, she is Jenny Bulan, one of our editorial boards of New City, Philippines. She will talk about one of the colors in our rainbow life, and that is violet, that it means communication, the color of unity. So let us welcome Jenny Bulan.
Yay. Can you see the screen? Good afternoon. I'm here to talk about the communications in the light of the ideal. Kiara has 7 aspects or colors of the rainbow. Many of you know about it, especially the red for the communion of goods or the economy of sharing, the orange for witnessing or walking the talk, yellow for the spirituality and faithfulness, green for health and nature, blue for harmony and the physical environment, indigo for wisdom and studies, and the last is the violet, or the means of communications. It is the color of unity. Communication unites people. Communication builds relationships through updating one another, sharing stories and experiences, thoughts and well wishes. Without this vital link, can you imagine what the world would be like if we didn't hear about the bombing in Beirut or the disaster in the 9/11 or our GenFest and the Run for Unity? Oops. How did this all start? Remember that Kiara and her friends understood their way of life during World War II. This was when they would run to designated air raid shelters, when the sirens blared and signaled the coming of bomber planes. They only had their Bible and a candle as the source of light. They would read passages and reflect on them. One time, Kiara thought, what if one day all the Bibles get burned? Who will know about God and His love? She felt then that they must live the gospel teachings concretely as a witness to God's existence. Long before the age of the internet came to be, the old school way of communicating with people was through handwritten letters. She would also write journal entries in her diary and write personal letters to her friends and loved ones, as was the custom back then. Remember, though, that in the beginning, Kiara did not think of building a movement, but she understood the importance of making correspondences and letters. Many of her companions back then kept those letters and notes. There were no copiers or other ways to preserve the documents except to physically store them in containers or file them in drawers. Oh, there. Whenever she gave talks, Kiara's friends would quickly take down notes. If you have heard Kiara speak in her videos, ganyan, you would know how difficult it must have been for her friends to capture the highlights of her talk, as she speaks very fast. At the end of the day, they would try to make sense of the notes they scribbled and neatly write or type them up so that they can preserve them. In 1954, some religious priests gifted Kiara with a tape recorder. That was how it used to look like. It's very big. I don't know if you've seen anything like this. Her companions were very happy to finally be able to capture Kiara's talks faithfully, because they would be able to pause and rewind the recording so they can transcribe every word she spoke. Later that year, a 16mm film camera, that's actually very big and it's very heavy. And it's very expensive during the time. It was very expensive. In 1956, the New City was born. It started as a newsletter, a few pages only, and to be able to give many people copies, they would duplicate them using mimeograph machines. I don't know if you've seen anything like this, but that lever there, they used to turn it around and then nakakopy yung mga what they wanted to share. So Kiara used all types of other communications. That was the norm in those days, like telephone calls, telegram, not the app that you know now. And as you know, technology developed slower before than today. New Magazine evolved from a newsletter to a magazine, from black and white print to colored copies, from manual mimeograph machines like the one I showed you to mass printing. to reach more and more people as the movement spread to different countries. So here are some examples of some of the editions that we have worldwide. Chiara Lubick understood the importance of documenting everything so that the future generations will know what it was like in the beginning. If you know about her story, she was once a school teacher. She knew the value of research. Today, you can look at the vast archives that the Center of the Focolare has maintained. Many of her valuable teachings have been preserved. With the constant updating of technology, many people believe the traditional media which we know as print and broadcast have become irrelevant. But traditional media still remains the best source of reliable and factual information. The new media, which is the digital format and includes social media, do not need to compete as they all have their respective purposes. The Catholic Church has survived through centuries because her believers have always strived to pass on Christ's teaching faithfully down through the generations. Her leaders have taken advantage of the modern means of written and spoken tradition, including the arts, TV, cinema, music, print. For Chiara, it was clear that a concrete and positive response to the call of our times is for people to be witnesses who concretely live the Church's teachings and document them using all available means of communications. Our commitment to change the world starts with a departure from the idea that I do this for me, but it is also that I do it for all of us. So what were Chiara's marching orders, or what did she want us to do for those who want to live up to this challenge? I quote from her directly. Our statutes, it's like our handbook at school, no, say that we must first of all be the salt of the earth. That is what has value. And afterwards, use the means of communication. We must preserve a Marian lifestyle, for Mary is at the heart of our lives. We are, however, a 21st century Mary, and therefore a Mary who speaks on the radio and appears on TV. We should not undervalue these means as others may do, but use them because that is what is normal today, end quote. And this was something that is in the statutes. The invitation to take part in this new phase was summed up by Chiara in this daring yet familiar analogy, which can be found in a 1968 diary entry of hers. Modern, so that these ideas can be delivered to the highest possible number of people in need of God. We should therefore not only aim at the press, but at radio, cinema, theater, TV, everything. All these are means which for the moment we entrust to the heart of Jesus, for him to develop by giving us both the ideas and the technical and financial means, if this is what God wants. And in closing, I quote Chiara in 1979. For some years now, I have felt that I must work for the future and the things that others will collect because they will go looking through the archives, the documents, to see how one thing or another developed. In the future, people will concentrate on what is now the present. For that reason, tomorrow's fruits will depend on how we do things now. The archives are for the future, for history. We are not simply placing things in order. You must regard your work as love for the souls of today and tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jenny, for the inspiring talk about the violet, the color of unity.